Background: my wife is an avid skier. She tries to ski every chance she gets, and that is often multiple times a week. I'm very supportive of this, as it seems like a good way for her to relieve stress and generally makes her happier. She's made multiple close friendships through this hobby, male and female, and some weekends they take ski trips to resorts out of town. I ski sometimes, but am not an enthusiast. And this group wants to tackle a lot of challenging runs that I'm not capable of at my current skill level. Also, in the off-season, they do other activities to maintain their fitness. None of this has ever been a problem until recently. A few months ago, my wife went trail running with a guy, 45-year-old male, named Josh, that was new to the group. I didn't know she was going alone until after she came back. I found that a little unusual since she usually goes with a couple of her girlfriends and maybe one other guy. Also, she had never really done this activity before. The next thing that happened, I thought was unusual, was she had infection 19, so she was isolating from me. She wanted to watch a movie on Amazon Prime, and I told her to bring me her laptop so I could take care of the two-factor authentication stuff. While I was using her laptop, she seemed cagey and agitated, and was hovering a little too close to me, considering we were supposed to be isolating. At this time, I noticed she was looking at a love horoscope for her sign, and Josh in one of her recently closed tabs. This didn't sit right with me, and I was stewing about it. My wife noticed, and she asked why I was upset, and I confronted her. She told me the horoscope thing was just a curiosity, and she looks it up for other people as well. I find this hard to believe. She offered me her phone to look through her messages, and I went through them. There were a lot of messages for a text chain that started only a couple months ago, probably more than we exchanged in the same period. Mostly her sending him memes and friendly back and forth. To me, it seemed excessive, and it looked like she was going out of her way to keep a conversation going with Josh. There was also a provocative exchange she made that went something like this. Josh: I would do bad things for some lasagna. Wife: oh, like what? Steal it? Wife: that's not what I was thinking. That's what I get when my mind is in the gutter. To me, this looks like an unsuccessful attempt by her to escalate the conversation, but Josh, to his credit, doesn't bite. When I saw this, I pointed it out, and she took blame for it and said she shouldn't have sent that. I'm shaking and very upset by all of this. My wife claims he's just one of the girls, and she isn't attracted to him because he's short and he's just a good friend. All of this reminded me of an emotional affair/sexting situation that I went through with my wife 10 years ago, married for 20. We got through that, and I was hoping that was behind us. In response to this, I set up 2 boundaries. 1, no more one-on-one events with Josh, and 2, avoid one-on-one texting. There's not usually a reason to text one-on-one when the same type of content can be shared in a group text. The next week, she said 2 of her girlfriends canceled on an event, and she asked if it was okay if she went alone with Josh. I told her obviously not, because that was a boundary I set, and she was annoyed with me for saying no. She met with her therapist, and her therapist largely agreed with my point of view, and she seemed to be less annoyed with me after that. I have been off and on depressed about all of this. And during that, she would ask me if there was anything she could do, and I just asked her to follow the boundaries I've set. Cut to this last week, I asked her to check in on the boundaries I set. She admitted to texting with Josh again, and I asked to see her phone. There was a gap in the texting, but there were 6 or 7 consecutive days again, with a lot of texting. Again, it's just benign texting, but it just seems kind of unnecessary. I don't know that we need 3 days around Christmas to text Merry Christmas and start a conversation. I don't think you need to tell your single guy friend goodnight in the evening. She says she was giving him a resource for some technical safety gear, and she started doing it again. I'm very upset again, and I tell her she was ignoring a clearly set boundary, and I'm not sure how we get past this as a couple. I find it really disrespectful and hurtful that she ignored this boundary, especially when she saw what it was doing to me. I found it very cruel. I talked to her about blocking contact with this person and ending the friendship so that we could move on. Considering that she already violated a clearly set boundary, I felt the need to escalate. She seemed open to that initially, but was indignant about it later on. I've asked her to apologize for ignoring the boundary and disrespecting me and the marriage, promise she won't do it again, and outline some steps to ensure it won't happen again. She seems to think I'm setting up an ultimatum on friendship, but I just want a path forward I can be comfortable with. She says she wasn't doing this to be cruel. She doesn't seem all that sorry to me. She says she has a deep connection with Josh, but again, they're just friends. She doesn't want to end the friendship because she says she will be outside the core group of enthusiasts and the activities they set up. My position is that my wife is acting inappropriately and disregarding my feelings by ignoring the boundary. I believe my wife loves me, but I also think she has a crush on this guy and is kind of acting on it and downplaying it. Am I overreacting? Am I being unreasonable? What should I do? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. That's not what I was thinking. That's what I get when my mind is in the gutter. You are not overreacting. There is more than friendship going on, even if it is one-sided. Your wife is disregarding your feelings and will continue to flirt with whomever she feels like. How far are you willing to go is the question. Setting a boundary comes with consequences if you break the boundary. You need to decide what those consequences are. Comment 2. This is a textbook emotional affair, and it may very well be one-sided. Did she use the phrase deep connection? That's attraction in another form. She's previously cheated, the boundaries aren't working, and she's now looking to cast blame and manipulate her way out of this. Your wife doesn't seem to realize or care how serious this is, but you should now be talking about reconciling or divorcing. Sorry, OP, and all the best. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, back with an update on the situation with my wife and her ski buddy, Josh. It's been a week since I last posted, and things have taken some turns, to say the least. So after I set those boundaries with my wife about not having one-on-one events or texting with Josh, I thought we were on the same page. But then she admitted to texting him again. I was really upset, and we had a big argument about it. I couldn't believe she'd just ignore what we agreed on. It felt like a slap in the face, especially after everything we've been through. Remember how I mentioned that emotional affair situation from 10 years ago? Well, it's been haunting me all over again. I thought we had moved past that, but this whole thing with Josh is like reopening an old wound. I've been trying to trust her again, but it's hard when history seems to be repeating itself. Anyway, after our fight, things got icy between us. She was being distant, and I was feeling pretty down. I decided to give her some space, hoping she'd come around and see things from my perspective. But instead, she went on another ski trip with the group. And guess who was there? Josh, of course. I didn't want to be the controlling husband, so I didn't say she couldn't go, but I was anxious the whole time she was away. When she got back, she was acting strange. She was quiet and avoided eye contact. I had this gut feeling that something happened on that trip, but I didn't want to accuse her without any proof. A couple of days later, I was doing laundry and found a lift ticket in her ski jacket from a resort they weren't supposed to go to. It was dated for the weekend she was away. I confronted her about it, and she tried to brush it off, saying they changed plans at the last minute. But I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. Then, the other night, she was late coming home from what was supposed to be a girls' Heimbro night out. I tried to stay calm, but when she walked in, I saw she was wearing the necklace I gave her on our 5th anniversary. She never wears that necklace unless it's a special occasion. I asked her about her night, and she was vague, just saying they had a good time, and it went later than expected. The next day, I was still feeling uneasy about everything, so I decided to reach out to one of her friends who was supposed to be at the girls' night. Her friend seemed confused and said she hadn't seen my wife in weeks. My heart sank. I knew then that she had lied to me about where she was. I haven't confronted her about it yet. I'm still trying to process it all. It's like I'm living in this constant state of anxiety, not knowing what's really going on with my wife and Josh. I love her, but I can't keep feeling like I'm second best or some backup plan. To make matters worse, I overheard her on the phone with Josh a couple of days ago. She was laughing, and sounded happier than she's been with me in weeks. I couldn't hear everything, but she mentioned something about next time and can't wait. It's like she's not even trying to hide it anymore. Boyfriend defends his friend who made fun of his girlfriend in front of others, but I get my sweet revenge. I met my boyfriend a year ago as we became friends. Later, he started flirting with me, so I was straightforward and told him I want a serious relationship which will lead to marriage and a family. He said he likes me so much that he wants the same with me. Of course, I understood that as he is younger, there will be some immature aspects about him, which I chose to ignore. There was one red flag I saw. He has a 32-year-old friend who is a huge authority for him. I have met this friend twice, and he sometimes makes fun or criticizes his girlfriend in front of other people. I told my boyfriend this is not normal for me, but he said she's just taking it as a joke. When we were 4 of us, my boyfriend tried to make a funny insult to me in front of them, and I told him to never do it. He has never tried to make fun of me in front of anyone else. I live in Italy for my master's, and my boyfriend asked if this friend and his girlfriend could come for Christmas and stay at my place. I agreed. These friends arrived, decided where they want to visit, didn't really care that my sister came too, and we wanted to see more places. When we were visiting Florence, they decided that they don't want to explore, but just want to drink beer, and my boyfriend stayed with them. I was left with my sister for the whole day. When I told my boyfriend that I don't like this behavior and feel like a free hotel, he said I have a mental problem. Then my mood was ruined, and I didn't want to talk to him or his friends. They decided when to go home, and when I said that it would be nice to stay for longer, my boyfriend said to take a train. His friend also allowed himself to talk and shout at me like he does to his girlfriend, but I told him I'm not okay with that, and he started telling me I'm an unhappy person and that it's my fault he's shouting at me, and that with my moods, I'm making my boyfriend unhappy. When we came back home, I was struggling with all of this, so went to see my friends, some friendly faces. My boyfriend stayed with his friends and didn't care that I was upset. The next day, I told my boyfriend I'm not okay with his friends speaking to me like this. They went to talk and came back telling me that I'm insane if I expect an apology. My boyfriend was just standing there while his friend was shouting at me and doing nothing, even supporting his friend. They left my house on Christmas Eve and ruined Christmas. I spoke with my boyfriend again, and I said that I feel like I'm not a priority in his life, and I'm not okay when his friend is rude to me in my own home, and my boyfriend does nothing. As we had a heated discussion, my boyfriend said to me that this friend has done a lot for him, and if he needs to choose between us, he will choose his friend and not me. We broke up and he left. It's been 3 weeks. My boyfriend messaged me and said that he understands that his friend was rude to me. Also, he said that he didn't take our relationship seriously enough and didn't care about my boundaries or my feelings, as he just wanted to have fun with his friends. But now he needs to think about what he wants to do. Apparently, that friend got into a fight with everyone because he thinks he's a king. My friends and family are telling me to run, as this won't change, and if not this friend, another will be a priority. My dad thinks my boyfriend doesn't love me. I don't know what should I do. I love him and miss him, but logically, I understand this might lead to nowhere. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your boyfriend literally is telling you that he is not going to choose you. You are not going to change his mind. Everyone else cannot be wrong about leaving him, and you are the only one who is right. You have done mental gymnastics in your head to justify his actions. The people closest to you are encouraging you to end this and move on. Why would you even want to love this behavior and dedicate your time to someone who is not reciprocating the same feelings? Doesn't that hurt worse than any breakup? Comment 2. Odds are good. Staying away is absolutely your best bet. Your boyfriend sucks. That being said, if he really was such a great person the rest of the time, I strongly suggest this. You tell him that you will consider taking him back if he goes to therapy and can coherently explain why he did what he did. Then he can also lay out a real plan for how to change who he is so he can be the man he is telling you he wants to be. That's the only way I would take him back if I were you. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a tense few days, and I've got quite the update for you. So, after my ex-boyfriend reached out, admitting his friend was rude and that he hadn't taken our relationship seriously, I was torn. I still had feelings for him, but my family and friends were adamant that I should move on. They reminded me of how he'd always put his friend first, even before our relationship. I couldn't shake off the memory of how he'd just stood there, silent, while his friend yelled at me in my own home. But then, things took an unexpected turn. My ex's friend, the one who thought he could treat people however he wanted, got himself into some serious trouble. Apparently, he'd been caught cheating on his girlfriend, the same one he'd always mock in public. The news spread like wildfire among our circle, and suddenly, everyone saw him for who he really was. His girlfriend dumped him, and all his friends, including my ex, distanced themselves from him. My ex came to me, looking for comfort and advice. He was confused and felt betrayed by his friend. I couldn't help but feel a bit of satisfaction seeing him realize how toxic his friend was. But I didn't let that sway me. I remembered how my ex had chosen his friend over me, and I wasn't about to let that happen again. Meanwhile, I had been focusing on my masters and spending time with my sister, who had been my rock through all of this. She reminded me of how I had always been there for my ex, supporting him through his ups and downs, and how he had failed to do the same for me when it mattered most. The final straw came when my ex tried to make plans for us to get back together, as if nothing had happened. He suggested a romantic dinner, but I had already made plans with my sister to visit a local art exhibit, something I had wanted to do for a long time but had put off because of him. When I told him I couldn't make it, he was shocked. He couldn't believe I was choosing my sister over him. But I stood my ground. I told him that I needed to prioritize myself and the people who had always been there for me. The night of the exhibit, my sister and I had an amazing time. We laughed, we talked, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. I realized that I didn't need someone who didn't value me or respect my boundaries. As for my ex, he tried to apologize again, but I could see that he was still the same person. He hadn't changed. He was just alone and looking for someone to fill the void his friend had left. In the end, I decided to focus on my own happiness. I continued my studies, surrounded myself with friends and family who loved and supported me, and I started to heal. And as for justice being served, well, my ex's friend lost his girlfriend and his friends, and my ex lost me. They both learned the hard way that you can't treat people poorly and not expect consequences. Husband compliments a man's looks while watching a video on Instagram, and my wife thinks he's secretly gay. She asks for space, and I find a receipt for a hotel room. My 28-year-old male, wife, 27-year-old female, has told me before that one of her biggest relationship fears is finding out I was secretly gay. I'm not sure if that's common with women, but she has that fear. So back to the situation. We were lying in bed together this morning watching reels on Instagram, and we came across a couple doing cute activities together, showing what other couples watching could be doing as well for ideas. So as the reel goes, I see the boyfriend or husband, a couple in their 20s, and I said, "Geez, he's really handsome, golly." And she responds with, "That's really weird." I'm not sure if it was the reaction I gave off to the guy that was the problem because I meant it to sound funny. For example, like how straight dudes are open to admitting that Henry Cavill is handsome and just being wow in awe about it, but are still straight. Afterward, whether or not I doubted or believed that that was actually the reason why, she doesn't talk to me at breakfast. And I asked if she was okay because we had planned to go on a walk at least. And she says, "I'm not sick or anything. What you said was weird, and I'd just be uncomfortable going on a walk." So now I know that was the issue. I give her space without her asking for it, and I go on a walk and go to the gym. I come back home, do some light cleaning, and ask her if she's hungry because by this point it's been around 5 hours since our last meal. And surely she'd be hungry because I definitely was. And she tells me, "It's okay, I'm not hungry." I offered to get her food, and she doesn't want anything. except now she's telling me that she actually wants space. I was simply complimenting a guy, like any woman would compliment another woman if they were the type to be open to giving compliments, which I am. If I were out, I would compliment another guy if I saw something that I wanted to compliment on. I'm not gay, and complimenting the same intimacy doesn't make you gay. So what's the deal? So after all I've written, do I sound gay? No hate to the gays, by the way, just that my wife wanted to be married to a straight man, which she is currently married to because I've only ever liked women. Edit. I hope it didn't come across as if I was talking bad about my wife or anything. I love her, but I just felt like this is way too much to be getting mad over. Edit 2. Golly is a word friends and I have been using lately to be funny, and it just seems to trickle down to regular conversation. Also, the use of emojis is to convey emotions of the story, not actually typing them or anything. There have been people here that are confused about that. Edit 3 new. She reminded me in a text just now exactly what I said, and it was, "He's handsome as hell." I voiced it, not texted it. She's correct. I did say that, but the sentiment is still the same as the phrase I thought I said above. And she now says, "I'm going to start off by saying that I'm just as tired of this as you are. I told you how I felt about what you said, he's handsome as hell, and you totally dismissed what I say and went on like nothing happened. All that does is make me feel unheard and makes me not even want to open up to you, let alone be around you." I dismissed what she said because I thought at first that it was just a statement. It's weird. She made her statement, and then we kept going on about our day. But I didn't know I had to fixate on her comment, so I went about my day. I didn't think it was that serious. When she made it clear that it was bothering her, I didn't react and just kept it cool as if I didn't notice, because I'm tired of this behavior. I felt like I needed to be the bigger person and just wait it out and let her feel her feelings while I stayed cool and then get back to the topic seriously when she's ready. Because in all honesty, I truly believe I did nothing wrong, and feeding into her anger by being angry won't fix anything. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Have you asked why she has this fear, or where and when this fear took root? I feel that there is more to the story here. From her end. I am fully gay, and in my experience, people who are this sensitive to homosexuality, there is something they are hiding, denying, hurt by, confused about. It's not always projection. Some of the people who despise me the most, because I choose to love my partner, have the biggest issues with themselves. Not me. Gently probe her and ask her what is going on. Ask her the tough questions because how she's reacting is very weird. It's also very telling. More so than what you said. Comment 2. Sounds like she has a specific and severe hang-up about this. Has she previously dated a man who turned out to be gay? What you said was normal. I don't know how she could possibly get to the point of marrying you and still be so suspicious about this that you simply noticing a good-looking person in passing causes this big of an emotional disruption. I'm not sure what to say, except she needs therapy if this is a genuine post. Now for the update. 3 days ago, my wife got upset because I called a guy on Instagram handsome. She's been worried about me being secretly gay, which I'm not. It's been tense since then, and things have only gotten more complicated. The next day, I tried to talk to her again. I reminded her of the time we went to her high school reunion, and she complimented her old cheerleading captain on how stunning she looked. I thought it would help her see my point, but it backfired. She got even more upset, saying it wasn't the same thing. I didn't understand why, but I let it go. Later that day, I was doing laundry and found a receipt in her jeans for a hotel room from a week ago. I was shocked. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but it was hard not to. I decided to wait for her to come home to ask about it. When she walked in, I could tell she was nervous. I showed her the receipt, and she broke down crying. She confessed that she had been feeling insecure in our marriage and met up with an old friend from college to talk. Nothing happened, she insisted, but she needed someone to vent to. I was hurt she didn't come to me first, but I understood. We decided to go to couples therapy. It was a tough session, full of tears and confessions. She admitted her fear of me being gay came from her ex, who came out after they broke up. She was projecting that fear onto me. I told her about my own insecurities, how I felt I couldn't be open with her. The therapist suggested we spend some time apart to think things over. I stayed with a friend, and she stayed at home. It was hard being away from her, but I knew we needed this. On the second day apart, I got a text from her. She had been thinking a lot and wanted to meet up. We went to our favorite park, the place where I proposed. It was there she dropped a bombshell. She was pregnant. I was over the moon, but also terrified. Our marriage was on rocky ground, and now we were bringing a child into it. We talked for hours, deciding that we wanted to make this work, for us and for our baby. We came back home together that night. It felt like a fresh start. We were laughing and joking like we used to. But then her phone rang. It was the friend she had met at the hotel. I could see the panic in her eyes as she declined the call. I asked her if she was sure nothing had happened between them. She hesitated before answering, and that hesitation said it all. She had lied. They had kissed, but she swore it was a mistake, that she regretted it immediately. I was devastated. I felt betrayed. But I also knew I loved her, and I wanted to be there for our child. We agreed to keep going to therapy and to work on rebuilding trust. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.